for this new cookie creation I don't want to pick on Trader Joe's, but they do a great job with those beautiful things at the front there. I need that.
Welcome to One with the Other Way, a podcast about your journey and finances. I am your host, James, and in today's episode, we're talking about savings. We have Peggy and Wanda with us today, so we hope you enjoy this episode.
So, when I think about savings, right, I actually think about paying yourself first, making it inaccessible so it's not easy to reach and spend on any given day, and then exhaling. It's going to take some time to create a savings account.
Yeah, I think this is a very interesting episode because we can talk a lot in abstract here, but realistically, where's the starting point for people if they haven't done any savings yet? Because especially for young people today, it's checking account only,
I had to laugh because I saw on the internet that savings is the amount left over after you spend your money on whatever it is you want and then your obligations. That was the definition of savings.
Would you qualify that as a good definition of savings, Wanda?
No, I think really savings should be this idea that you're paying yourself first to have money to pay cash for things that you want or an emergency. Maybe first prioritize the emergency and then pay cash for what you want. In the same way that Uncle Sam reaches in and takes your 6.85% taxes, I think you should at least pay yourself that much first, set that money aside for savings and call that your savings and then spend your money.
So are you kind of like thinking of it in a way of like how similar to a job withholding, basically, but having a withholding for yourself?
Yeah. You're just as important as the federal government. Withhold for yourself or your savings for your emergencies and short-term needs. Yeah.
I want to hear Peggy's thoughts on this first.
So I don't think that that's a good definition of savings. That's actually the definition of your net cash flow. And I think that you should pay yourself first. And I think that it's important to just take the first step. You had asked, how does somebody go about starting? And that you just have a checking account. A lot of young people just have checking accounts. And you go about it by taking the first step. Just start. Open a savings account. Start putting some amount of money in it.
Make it inaccessible, right? So start putting a regular amount of money into that account and make it inaccessible so that you don't look at it, see it, and think about all the wonderful things you could buy with it.
I guess my next question is for people with limited income. And, we have another podcast coming out in 2 weeks on paying off debt. How does someone prioritize saving if they don't have anything to save?
Do you think, it's funny, right? Because we think that there are things that we cannot do. Yet the reality is we can always do it. We choose not to do it. It's the whole thing of want versus need. And so I guess I can't overemphasize this enough. The federal government reaches in and takes 6.85% of your money for payroll tax. They always find space on your paycheck. So if they have the ability to take 6.85%, then you also can choose to give yourself some money every month to put into your savings.
I guess the question, though, that I'm seeing is that, hey, this is hard. Like, I think that's the overall thing. And for someone that's never done this before, and Peggy, to what you're saying, just start. Some people might see that and say, hey, this is like, I've never known what this even is. And so it's like scary to them. I guess, how do you calm fears down in that area?
Well, I think that, you're talking about somebody who's on a tight budget that's what you're specifically asking, right? Somebody
Yes.
who
Someone
doesn't think they have money and they don't know where to begin. So they're probably already overwhelmed because they feel like they're behind. I think that they have to just take a second and look at what they're actually spending their money on and then make choices. Yes, it's hard. but you have to make choices. And so maybe when you sit down, you actually look at it and you think you don't actually have any money, but then you look through your checkbook and what you've spent, and you went to Starbucks 4 times in the month. And that's not very many times for some people. And even people who think they don't have any money have gone to Starbucks more than 4 times. You'd be surprised how many people do that, right? So if you go to Starbucks 4 times in the month, that's $20.
Yeah, at
You could have
least.
put that in your savings instead. And sometimes you are going to be talking about starting with numbers like $20. I think that you just have to say, yes, it's hard. Yes, you need to prioritize yourself. And you need to just look at your cash flow and begin and not get caught up in, I have to do everything right now. I need to get the savings. And if it's not $100, then it's not worth it. But really, if it's $10 or $20, or if you say, I'm not going to go out to eat so many times, or, Americans eat a ton of meat. You don't need to eat meat
Yeah.
every day. Maybe you could find it in your food budget. There are
Well,
ways.
this brings up my next practical question because Wanda, you were the first one that told me about this, but going to the
Oh,
grocery store and a cost of admission.
right. I always laugh because no matter what, there's a cost of admission every time you enter a retail space. Just every time. If you're going to go to the grocery store and you're going to do weekly shopping, your weekly shopping, you will walk out of there spending between $100 and $120 consistently. That's it. $100 if, right, you forgot to get eggs and you stop in the grocery store on the way home, you find that you will spend $40 because it will not just be the eggs. It will be the, breakfast cereal at the end stall that looks so attractive, or this new cookie creation at, I don't want to pick on
Yeah.
Trader Joe's, but they do a great job with those beautiful things at the front there. I need that. And so your cost of admission generally between $30 and $40, even though you only went in to get, eggs. Starbucks, you may think, right, that I'm just going to go in there and get a coffee. Yet that counter there with those beautiful little things in there and those little treats, and I'm a little hungry, and doesn't that look tasty? It does.
Get a cake pop. Yeah.
Yes, and exactly. And I don't, again, mean to pick on Starbucks because it does a great thing in terms of, bringing people together in community and talking and that kind of thing. So I don't want to pick on Starbucks. So when you look at your day-to-day life, you want to think about the places that you find yourself, because the places that you find yourself, again, have a price of admission. And so potentially, right, if I just skip one of those places, right, I don't meander into the Target or to the Walmart on my way home, I won't have to pay that admission because I don't, it's hard to go walk out of those places. They know exactly what they're doing in terms of marketing. So, oh my gosh, I got to have it. And then it becomes a want versus a need. And so that's actually a good way to look at finding a space for savings dollars to come from, not visiting one of those places and instead making a choice to do something else. Read a book, watch a movie at home, that kind of thing, where you're not out and about at the in the hands of great marketers, and they do a great job, right? It's like I want
Yeah.
that. I want to talk to something that you said though. You said sometimes that it's very hard for people. It's interesting, Peggy, because you suggested that. And I would agree with you normally. I would think that this would be people who maybe didn't make a lot of money or who don't make a lot of money. Yet a recent Bankrate survey shows that 2 out of 3 of us think we don't have enough in savings. And again, median income in America right at $60,000 a year. So that's actually affecting more of us than we think. I mean,
Yeah.
and again, maybe sometimes it's hard, right? Take a step back, as you say, exhale and just start, even if it's just $10. $10 is more than it was before, and that's a positive in your world.
Yeah, I think that kind of goes into the thing of comparison, not to compare themselves to someone else, but to compare themselves to their own past and making changes.
Right. To themselves, right?
Yeah, I think you do have to give yourself credit for your successes. And we don't do that a lot for ourselves. And you said the want need thing, and I didn't mention that when I said sit down and look at your bank account. But that might be a good way for somebody also that's on a really strict budget, or somebody that is actually negative cash flow monthly, to sit down and look through their expenditures and actually put want or need, right? Is this something that
Oh,
I need, or is this something that I want? And go through, because when you get really down to that, I think you'll find there's people spend on wants things like, I mean, do you need Spotify? I mean, we want
yeah.
Spotify and we want you to have Spotify, and
So you can
you know,
listen to our podcast.
that's right. But I'm just saying, as an out there, right? And another thing, and this happens to me actually, I have to periodically go through and look at my streaming services,
Oh my gosh,
because
yes.
I have my streaming service. So I used to have, like a satellite.
Yeah.
And you start out the cable, and then you get this great deal and you go to satellite, and then you start doing streaming, and then you're doing both. And then you're like, okay, we'll get rid of this. And then over time it builds back up again, right? Because, oh, you know what, I want to watch that series and it just came out. So, oh, it's on HBO. Got to get HBO.
Or they
So,
raise the rates.
right. Or they raise the rates. So I think if you sit down and look at things and actually put want, need, it might help you also. And if you're on a really tight budget.
Yeah.
But I do think that just starting and giving yourself credit for beginning, and then allow yourself time to build the savings.
I actually think, this idea of paying yourself first, just starting, right? Making it inaccessible so that you can't reach it and touch it, right? And then exhale. Give yourself credit for where you are and what you're starting to do for yourself, and how you can have savings. And if that's one of your goals for this year, let's make it happen. Let's get your savings going.
And so if you'd like to actually meet with a financial advisor to discuss going over wants and needs, going over your budget, going over savings, Peggy and Wanda are available to meet with you. You can find us at financesforreallife.com. You can click the schedule an appointment button on the top right of our website. And yeah, Peggy and Wanda would love to work with you. So thank you for listening to today's podcast of One Went the Other Way. We hope to see you in 2 weeks.
Securities offered through LPL Financial, member FINRA, SIPC. Investment advice offered through Finances for Real Life, a registered investment advisor and separate entity from LPL Financial. The opinions voiced in this podcast are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. To determine which strategies or investments may be suitable for you, consult the appropriate qualified professional prior to making a decision.